Good evening, everyone. In just a few moments, we'll be starting tonight's ceremony. So if you have not yet found your seat, we encourage you to do so at this time. And we'll be underway with tonight's ceremony in just a few moments. Thank you.
My friend, I'll say it clear. I'll state my case, of which I'm certain.
Good evening again, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight as we celebrate the remarkable life of Skip Bertman. My name is Bill Franquez. It was my great honor to work with Coach Bertman for 13 seasons as the LSU Baseball Communications Director. And as you all know, among Skip's many gifts was his ability to captivate an audience with his public speaking appearances. I heard him on many occasions deliver inspirational messages to his players, to Tiger baseball fans, and to all who loved LSU athletics. There's a portion of one of his speeches that has remained etched in my memory because it perfectly embodies Skip's view of himself as a teacher. It was late in the 1990s. Skip had already established LSU baseball as a dynasty. And on this particular day, he was discussing his relationship with other coaches and how they often sought advice from him about baseball strategy. They'd say to him, "Coach, really love that bunt defense you're running." Or, "Coach, can you show us how your players grip the breaking ball?" Or, "Coach Bertman, the way your players approach the plate is really effective. Can you tell us more about it?" And of course, Coach Bertman appreciated the interest, appreciated the nice comments from the other coaches. But he always said the compliment that meant the most to him was when a coach would say, "Coach Bertman, when your players take the field, they look like they know they're going to win." And that was the compliment that Coach Bertman embraced because it validated his mission as a coach to motivate and inspire young people to achieve goals they never dreamed would be within their reach, to empower them with confidence and make them believe they would find greatness not only on the baseball field, but in any endeavor they chose to pursue. In creating a culture of excellence for LSU baseball, Skip elevated our athletics department, our university, our community, and indeed the entire state of Louisiana. As coach and as athletics director, he set LSU on a course to becoming the global powerhouse it is today. Much of what we do, much of who we are as a university, was shaped by the influence of Skip Bertman. Skip often closed his speeches by reciting a poem entitled "Tomorrow," written by Edgar Guest. The poem told the story of a talented and intelligent man who was full of bright ideas and good intentions, but he always put off taking action until tomorrow. And sadly, at the end of the man's life, all that was left was a list of great things he intended to do, but never did. So when Skip would finish reciting the poem, he'd say to his audience, "Don't wait until tomorrow. Tonight, call your parents and tell them how much you love them. Reach out to a friend that you haven't talked to in months or even years. Chase your dreams. Follow the career path you've always imagined for yourself. Believe in yourself and believe in the power of the human spirit." That is the legacy of Skip Bertman. It's a legacy that lives in all of us today, and it's the reason we're here tonight to celebrate his incredible life. So now we begin tonight's ceremony with a procession of 5 of Skip's players, each representing one of his national championship teams. First of all, representing the 1991 national champions, pitcher Rick Green. Representing the 1993 national champions, Todd Walker. Representing the 1996 national champions, Warren Morris. Representing the 1997 national champions, Patrick Coogan. And representing the 2000 national champions, Brad Cressy.
Well, I spent some time in the Mudville night, watching it from the bench. You know, I took some lumps when the mighty case struck out.
We welcome next into the arena our featured speakers for tonight's celebration. And finally, joining us here in the arena tonight, the members of the Skip Bertman family. And now please join me in welcoming to the stage Rabbi Sarah Smiley of the Unified Jewish Congregation.
We gather tonight to honor a man whose name is etched into the very heart of this community. Although he is known best for his life near the field, he also lived a life guided by Jewish values. Jewish poet Zelda teaches, "Each of us has a name given by God and given by our parents. Each of us has a name given by our stature and our smile and given by what we wear. Each of us has a name given by the mountains and given by our walls. Each of us has a name given by the stars and given by our neighbors. Each of us has a name given by our sins and given by our longing. Each of us has a name given by our enemies and given by our love. Each of us has a name given by our celebrations and given by our work. Each of us has a name given by the seasons and given by our blindness. Each of us has a name given by the sea and given by our death. Skip Bertman wore many names throughout his extraordinary life. To the world of college athletics, his name was Coach. To those who learned under his watchful eye, his name was Teacher and Mentor. To this community and university, his name was Leader. To those close to him, his name was Friend. To his family, Sandy and Lisa, who passed away before him, Jan, Jody, Lori, Sophie, Isaac, Sam, and Ezra, who remember him today, his name was Loved. To his Jewish community, his name was Mensch. A mensch is someone who consistently does the right thing, especially when no one is watching or when there is nothing to gain. Ultimately, to be a mensch is to bring light, warmth, and quiet nobility into the everyday world. In Jewish tradition, the greatest tribute to someone who has passed is that their memory continues to inspire righteous action, dedication, and love in the living. Skip's legacy is not just in trophies and championships, but in the thousands of lives he shaped and the community that embraced him. In Jewish tradition, when a righteous person passes away, we say, may their memory be for a blessing. May Skip's memory always be a blessing. Psalm 23, which is probably familiar to many of you, is recited when we honor the life of a Jewish person whose memory will live on, because it shifts the focus of mourning from fear and despair to divine presence, comfort, and ultimate transition. Words from Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me to lie down in green pastures. God leads me beside the still waters. God restores my soul. God guides me in straight paths for God's name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Memory in Judaism is active. So as you listen to the many stories of Skip's life you will hear tonight, think about how you can turn those memories into actions, so the legacy he began to see in his own life will continue for many years to come. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember Skip. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember him. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember Skip. In the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of summer, we remember him. In the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember Skip. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember him. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember Skip. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember him. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember Skip. When the first pitch is thrown and the team is holding on to the rope, we remember him. So long as we live, he too shall live, for he is now a part of us as we remember Skip. The principal memorial prayer recited at Jewish funerals calls upon God's compassionate trait to offer peace to the deceased. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Skip Bertman, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace. And let us together say, Amen.
Thank you so much, Rabbi, for joining us this evening with that lovely tribute to Coach Bertman. Jay Johnson has been the LSU baseball coach for 5 seasons. He's enhanced our glorious tradition by already leading the Tigers to 2 national championships. And Coach Johnson's relationship with Coach Bertman over the past 5 years has been extremely meaningful to both men. Please join me in welcoming Coach Jay Johnson.
First off, I want to thank the Bertman family. When I came here a little over 5 years ago, I talked about coming to LSU as the opportunity of my lifetime, but being asked by you to do this is easily the honor of my lifetime. So thank you. In what world does one of your heroes become your best friend in the last 5 years of his life? Little context is 7th grade in 1991, the first dog pile, Coach Bertman's first national championship. I immediately wanted to go to the mall and buy an LSU baseball hat. Now, at that time, I don't think I could have told you where Louisiana was on the U.S. map. But I did know that the LSU Tigers were becoming the best college baseball team in the country. And I know they were coached by Coach Skip Bertman, the best college baseball coach in the country. Fast forwarding 9 years later, in 2000, Brad Cressy, walk-off, Brian Terrio slides into home for Coach's 5th and final national championship. That's about the time I was in my playing career and was going to start coaching. And my college coach, Scott Sarver, said, I'm going to let you coach with me, but I have a project for you. I want you to study these coaches. I want you to look into the great Augie Garrido, specific to fundamentals. I want you to look at Andy Lopez at the University of Florida at the time about practice planning, or Mark Marquis from Stanford, or talk about building a program. Ron Polk, Coach's great friend at Mississippi State. But we can cut through all the chase, and I want you to start learning about Skip Bertman. And this is right about the time, Coach was ending his career as I was starting this journey. So in the year 2000, I bought his videotape, Winning the Big One. So Coach made money off me a long time ago. That videotape was the first time I learned about the core principles of the dynasty that he built. Striving for excellence, living one pitch at a time, no transfer of blame, everything counts, and ultimately holding the rope. I was so fascinated by all of this that I immediately tried to start doing everything I learned in the video. Couldn't write fast enough, couldn't take enough notes, couldn't wait to get to the field the next day and do something that I'd learned, from Coach Bertman and just watching a 30-minute videotape about winning the big one. So much so, I actually had a player tell me one time that the most profound thing that I ever told them was, I believe in you, and that all you can do is all you can do, and all you can do is enough. And every player here that played for Coach Bertman knows exactly where that statement had originated. So far before coming here, he was making a massive impact on my life and success as a coach. Fast forwarding 20 years, 2021, at a kind of agent, talking about things that were maybe happening. Maybe Texas A&M was going to be open. There was some possibilities Coach Maneri was going to retire. And would you want to look at either of these opportunities? I was like, I want to go to the College World Series, do whatever, keep me posted. And he called me back, and he says, LSU's a no. I was like, okay, any reason why? They don't like short people? And they said that maybe Coach Bertman felt that maybe somebody from the West would not work in Louisiana. And I bring this up for one reason, just to share the immense respect that I had for this man ever before speaking to him, is I said, okay, if that's what Coach thinks and that's what Coach believes, I'm totally good with that. Let's move forward. So over the next couple weeks, our team at Arizona, we won a regional, we won a super regional, got to the College World Series, and I got a phone call from a 225 area code. And my first thought wasn't like, yeah, let's go, LSU, amazing. My thought was, did he watch us play? Did we really change Coach Bertman's mind by watching our team play? And that's all that I thought about or all that I cared about in that moment before ever getting here or talking to him. Well, a few days later, after accepting the job and coming out here, or before coming out here, I was standing in our living room in Tucson, and I sat there looking at my phone for like 30 minutes. 30 years later, after buying this LSU baseball hat at a mall in Chico, California, I was finally going to call the man. So to be clear, and to go on the record for this, that is by far the most tension, anxiety, and pressure I've ever felt as the LSU baseball coach, was the first time I was going to get to talk to Skip Bertman. Fast forward, and about 48 hours later, we were out here, and he's like, Coach, sit down right here. And he goes, I'm never going to tell you what to do, but you need to do these 3 things. From that point forward, the friendship that was built, the relationship that was built is as close to special as anything that I could ever describe. Whatever I say will not be able to remotely explain the impact that these last 5 years with Coach has had on me and my life. Nothing is ever going to replace driving 5 minutes from the ballpark, going in there to Riverbend, sitting at the kitchen table, and talking about everything. Baseball wasn't the half of it. We talked about life. We talked about happiness. We talked about coaching. We talked about leading. And we talked about LSU. And it would go on for hours and hours. And I couldn't be more grateful for that time. It's a void that I don't know how that's quite going to get replaced. Talking about our roster, literally the last time that I went over there and the last time that I saw him in the hospital. And Verge would tell you, for 10 minutes he turned it on, and he was him. And when he pointed at Verge, he wanted to know about donors and fundraising. And we pointed to Ivan Cabrera and calling him big guy. And he's like, Coach, tell me about this lefty that we got. And that was every time that we talked. His interest in what we were doing, his interest in our players and our program is something that I will never, ever forget or ever be able to repay him for. Not in a coaching career but of my life. The greatest joys that I have is him being able to be in Omaha at the College World Series, not once but twice, and to see his Tigers win a national championship. I wanted to tell or remind, I saw a picture of it earlier at the earlier reception in 2023. He was being honored in the first game when we were playing Tennessee for probably being like the king of Omaha, which he was, the mayor of Omaha. I don't even remember what the reward or the award was for. And we were winning about 3-1 at the time. He gets his award, and then he kind of walks over towards our dugout. He points at the guys, and he does the Tommy White home run celebration. And I'm just like, this dude has got it beyond anything we could all think. Our players relax, play the last 3 innings great. We win like 6-3 and go on to win the national championship. So even not as the coach, 22 years later, he was impacting winning in Omaha with our team, doing exactly what we needed at that time. Sitting in the locker room after the game, moment I wouldn't trade for the world. And then in 2025, probably one of my favorite interactions with him of all time. I knew he was coming to the last game, hopefully the last game. But you kind of forget about it when you're in the midst of trying to make a run at a national championship, scouting reports, getting the team ready, prepared. And he wheelchairs into the locker room. And it was like, oh, wow, he's here. And he shakes my hand. He's like, yeah, great job. But here's what's going to happen. You know, when we win, I'm going to come down on the field. I'm going to give you a hug. We're going to celebrate. And as most of the time when I talk to him, yes, sir, coach, yes, sir. And in my mind, I'm going like, does this guy remember that we only won 1-0 last night? And does he also remember the team we have to beat today hadn't lost in 2.5 months prior to the game last night? But just what I thought next was, there is no way I'm making this man spend another night in Omaha. We better win today. Both of those things will be seared in my memory forever, and just explain Coach. I heard Coach Bianco, who's here today, explain it beautifully, that the man was a self-esteem machine. And I never walked out of the house, never walked away from lunch at Mike Anderson's or dinner from TJ Ribs, not feeling like anything and everything was possible. And no matter what, I had the greatest coach of my lifetime 100% in my corner and behind me. When I think about Coach Bertman, his life and his impact, how would he want us to go on? The first thing that came to mind, as much sadness as there's been, and it really started to hit me last night as you're trying to get some thoughts together for this. I know he would look at us with an attitude of do not cry because this is over. Smile because it happened and because we're all part of something incredibly special. And what is that? That is being a part of LSU. And one of the things I love about being at LSU is the enormous pride that everybody has in being at LSU. But I think today it's appropriate to remind everyone that it's only LSU because of Skip Bertman. And it's what drew me here was not necessarily the name or the school, but the opportunity to honor, in my opinion, maybe not even just the greatest baseball coach of my lifetime, but the greatest man that I know. And surprisingly, the greatest friend I never knew that I would have. How do we honor it? Exactly the way that he taught all of you fans who are by far, you have no peer. Fans, you honor it by continuing to walk through those gates at the box. You continue to drive to Hoover, Alabama for the SEC tournament. You continue to make the trip to Omaha, Nebraska. Fans, that's how you honor Coach Skip Bertman. To our team and our program, how we honor him. Continue to strive for excellence. Believe that everything counts. Never transfer blame. Play with that heightened awareness or how to win awareness. And, of course, it's all of our jobs to hold the rope. I love you, Coach.
Thank you, Coach Johnson. Now, Coach Bertman was often asked, what was the most significant event in the emergence of the LSU baseball program? And he always responded, it was the day that Ben McDonald signed to play with the Tigers. Ben, as you know, was a superstar pitcher, won the 1989 Golden Spikes Award, #1 overall selection in the 1989 Major League Baseball draft. After a great big league career, he became one of the top broadcasters in college baseball and in Major League Baseball, and is a tremendous ambassador for our game. For a former player's perspective on Coach Bertman, let's welcome Ben McDonald.
Coach Johnson must have been up here before me. I don't even know how to adjust this thing. I'll just grab it and hold it. How about that? First of all, I want to do is thank Coach Johnson. Coach Johnson took his time in a time where arguably it's the toughest time it's ever been to be a head coach in any sport. Coach Johnson took his time to spend with Coach Bertman. He wanted to know the history of this program. He wanted to know how it all got started. He wanted to bump everything he could off of Coach Bertman, whether it was NIL stuff, how to deal with the best fan base in all of college baseball. He wanted to know everything about how Coach Bertman built this program. And so to you, Jay, I say thank you for doing that. I say that for the family, and I know all the former players that ever played for Coach Bertman. We appreciate you taking the time to spend with Coach Bertman. Coach Bertman helped build the biggest brand in college sports. He's the reason why the expectations are what they are at LSU. And the expectations here at LSU will always be championships. That's what the expectations are, and Coach Bertman built that. I've been busted up pretty good, like a lot of y'all have, for about 12 days now. A lot of emotions running through me, like it is for a lot of you guys. And I'm going to do my best to get through this. Every interview I've done in the last 12 days, I hadn't been able to hold it together, but I'm going to do my best to hold it together tonight. Janice, don't you laugh at me. I tell you what we're going to do. Everybody knows what this means. This has always meant LSU. LSU forever. It's the greatest brand in all of college sports. But this L has a dual meaning tonight. And this dual meaning is our love and appreciation for Coach Bertman. So if I lose it, I'm going to throw this at y'all. And I want you to throw it right back at me. And we'll get through this together tonight. It's an honor for me. I appreciate the family asking me to be a small part of this. I got home 2 Thursdays ago, about 2 o'clock in the morning. I didn't know it, but Coach Bertman went in the hospital at 4 o'clock, just a couple hours later. I got a phone call from Coach Johnson later on that afternoon, around 8:30, to tell me that Coach Bertman was in the hospital. I didn't know he was in the hospital. I hurried up and got dressed and rushed over to the hospital. And I saw Jody was one of the first people that I saw. And she said, well, Coach is in ICU. And he's not doing good. He's not taking visitors. And I think she saw the look on my face. She said, do you really want to see him? I said, no, Jody, you don't understand. I have to see him. I have to go see Coach. So Jody was nice enough to take me back. And I got to spend some precious moments with Coach. And he was himself. He was struggling, but he was himself. He recognized who I was as soon as I walked in the door. And we had some private conversations. And I got up. And I told him I loved him for all of us. I told him I appreciated everything he did for me and for all the former players. And I kissed him on the forehead, and then I made my way out. Little did I know Little did I know, that's going to be the last time I would see Coach Bertman. When you look back at Coach Bertman and in the early years, man, when you're 18, 19, 20 years old, you think he's a crazy old man. Some of the things that he says, some of the things that he does. It's not until you get a little bit older and you start having kids yourself and you start to realize a lot of things that Coach Bertman had. He had this vision, man. He had this vision like no other, and he tells all the stories in the early years, 1984, his first year. There were more pigeons in the stands than there were people. Like the batter would hit the ball, and you could hear the base runner that hit the ball run down the first base line. That's how quiet it was. He also talked about how some of the fans didn't even know his name. Called him Skip Bertram. That's what they called him. And he talks about the time he made a mound change in 1984. The starting pitcher had to come out of the game. He'd given up the lead. It was time to take him out of the ball game. Coach made his way to the mound. On his way back, some fan stands up and yells, "Hey, Bertram, we need more points." And he looked into the stands like only Coach Bertman could. He said, "They're runs, and I swear we'll get more of them." Well, they got more of them. More runs led to more wins. More wins led to more success. More success led to 5 national titles in 10 years. Probably won't ever be done again. Now, that's number 5 here at LSU. I think we can all get behind. You think about what he orchestrated in the SEC. How about this? The Southeastern Conference has won the national title the last 7 years in college baseball. But it goes back further than that. In 1990, the SEC won their very first national title. It was University of Georgia that won the first national title in SEC history. Coach Bertman's teams would win the second one in 1991. But if you go back and look at it, 18 out of the last 36, now listen to this, 18 of the last 36 national titles in baseball has been won by the SEC. Now, I didn't graduate. I only got 5 semesters in, but in my math, that's half. Pretty impressive what he helped orchestrate in the SEC. And then when you talk about, and nobody talks about this enough, what he did as an athletic director, all the national championships that he won as an athletic director as well. Coach Bertman will not only be remembered as the greatest coach in LSU sports, but he'll go down as the most influential person in LSU sports history because of that. It's almost like Coach Bertman sometimes had a crystal ball. And all you former players that are here, you'll remember it. He talked a lot about the inevitable two. It had to happen. He would talk about a pitcher getting ready to take the mound for the first time, and he'd turn to the dugout, and I remember it like it was yesterday, and Paul Byrd is here. Paul Byrd runs out his freshman year, and he's just leaving the dugout, and the game's starting, and he runs out. Right before he gets to the mound, he starts taking his warm-up tosses. Coach Bertman turns to the dugout, and he said, "Hey, Byrd, you see, Paul Byrd's going to give up 2 runs in the first inning." Of course, I'm keeping the chart, looking at him like, whatever. How do you know that? The batter had him step to the box yet. He said, no. He said, you see, he'll walk the first batter. The next guy's going to get a base hit. He'll strike a guy out, but then somehow runners will end up on second and third with 2 out, and they'll get a base hit and 2 runs will score. I said, whatever, coach. I said, no way. Sure enough, the first batter steps in the box. Paul Byrd walked the first batter on 4 pitches. The next batter got a base hit. He strikes out the 3-hole hitter, but then the 4-hole hitter hits a little squibber right back to Paul Byrd. The only play he had was over at first base, so he got the out at first base, but runners were on second and third. And don't you know, the 5-hole hitter hit a base hit right up the middle and 2 runs scored. I just threw the clipboard up in the air. And I was standing there looking at Coach, and he looks at me, he goes, "McDonald, 30 years, he said. He said, I've seen it all," with those big old fingers. And he said, "I've seen it all twice," he said. Coach wasn't a cookie-cutter coach. In that era, man, most coaches ruled with an iron fist. Y'all remember, it's going to be this way. This is how we're going to do it. Don't ask me any questions. Just do it. Coach Bertman wasn't that way. He knew how to push buttons on players, kind of like coaches do today, to get the best out of every player. A lot of you know this story. Some of you don't. We had a freshman pitcher by the name of Mark LaRosa from Connecticut up in the Northeast. Good left-handed pitcher. Was a wrestler on the high school team as well. Well, Coach Bertman, we're going down to UNO on a Wednesday night to play the Privateers. Coach Bertman calls in Mark LaRosa, who had pitched out of the bullpen the first 6 weeks of the season. And he tells Mark, you're going to get your first collegiate start tomorrow night at UNO. Mark's excited. Fast forward to the next day, we're on a bus trip down to New Orleans to play UNO. Coach Bertman, of course, sitting in the front of the bus. Beetle Bailey's across from him. Jim Wells is across from him. All three of them are smoking cigars. And we're just trying to survive in the back of the bus. We got the windows down. It's like a fog back there. But he calls LaRosa up to the front of the bus to let him know that he had changed his mind. Mark, you will not be starting tonight. You're going to be back in the bullpen. Well, Mark LaRosa's upset like anybody would be upset. Fast forward a couple hours later after batting practice, getting ready to start the game. Of course, we're in the first base dugout, getting ready to hit first. Randy Davis, who was the pitching coach at the time, graduate assistant. Hey, Coach, we got a problem. What is it, Davis? He said, Mark LaRosa's down in the bullpen. He's got his jersey off and he's sunbathing. Coach Bertman steps out of the dugout and he kind of looks down the right field line, and all you players have heard this. All you hear is, woo. Rock along. We got a 2-run lead going into the 8th inning, and Coach Bertman tells Randy Davis, go down to the bullpen. Tell LaRosa to get up and get loose. I'm going to bring him in the game so he can lose the game for us. My head snapped around, and Randy Davis's head snaps around, and Davis goes, excuse me, Coach? You heard me, Davis. Sure enough, Randy gets up. He starts running down the right field line. I hook in right behind him. I got to see this. I want to see how LaRosa's going to react to this. So sure enough, we get down there, and Davis goes, LaRosa, Coach wants you to get up and hurry up and get loose because he's going to bring you in the ball game in the 9th inning so you can lose the game for us. Well, LaRosa's got a lot of choice words. His face is red. Snot's coming out of his nose. He's throwing balls everywhere. And sure enough, he brought Mark LaRosa in the 9th inning to try to win the game for us, to get the save. Gets 2 outs, but there are 2 runners on. And sure enough, one of the best hitters steps in the box for UNO, 3-run home run. We lose the ball game. They walk us off. Mark LaRosa devastated, like anybody would be devastated. In the post-game huddle, Coach is talking to Mark LaRosa, but he's talking to all of us. And the message to Mark LaRosa was, how are you going to deal with adversity? How are you going to deal with adversity? Mark, you didn't handle it well. I purposely told you were starting because I knew I was going to take it away from you because I knew I wanted to see how you reacted. And you were so upset that I took it away from you. You weren't ready when I needed you to be ready. You're not ready to pitch for me yet. But what he did, too, is he also loved on him. And he said, Mark, I believe in you. You're not ready yet, but I'm going to keep working with you. Mark ended up being a good part of the bullpen the second half of the season. Went on to have a nice career at LSU. Honesty. That's one thing Coach had, was a lot of honesty, and you guys know it, too. He didn't tell you what you wanted to hear. He was going to, by gosh, tell you what you needed to hear, and that's what he did. We all needed it. I know I needed it too. It was one of his many gifts that he had. I've been fortunate enough to stand in a lot of big moments because of Coach Bertman. A national stage, a first overall pick, a major league mound, and a seat in the broadcasting booth. None of it, and I mean none of it, happens without Coach Bertman. See, Coach Bertman raised men. He built warriors. And I'm one of the lucky ones, like all of his former players are, who will always get to call him coach, mentor, and friend. Coach loved on us during our playing careers, but he loved on us just as much when our careers were over. And there's hundreds of stories that go around about this. He helped so many of us transition into the next chapters of our lives once the jerseys came off. A couple examples. Everybody knows Mike Papajohn. Mike Papajohn's here tonight. Mike played in the late 80s. He was a senior when I was a freshman. Mike wanted to get into acting. He had kind of gotten his foot in the door in acting, but a few phone calls from Coach Bertman got him through that door. Mike Papajohn, nearly 200 films he has been in since then. Spider-Man, Terminator, For Love of the Game. He's been in so many big moments. Coach Bertman helped that happen. John O'Donohue is here tonight. Told me the story the other day. John made it to the big leagues for a year with the Baltimore Orioles with a heck of a pitcher. His career ended as well. Sitting down talking to Coach Bertman one day, he said, John, what are you going to do? I said, I don't know, Coach. I kind of like law enforcement. He said, but, Coach, I checked it out. It's $1,200 to take the aptitude test. I don't have the money to do that. Coach Bertman, like he did so many times, gave John the money for the test. John passed the test. Saw Coach a couple weeks later, told Coach, I passed the test. Coach makes another phone call, calls the police chief. Police chief calls John O'Donohue. John's been in law enforcement here in Baton Rouge for 30 years now. And then finally, my story. I was retired at 31 years old. Shoulder blew up on me. Had 9 years in the big leagues. Sitting down with Coach one day, and he goes, Ben, what you going to do now? I said, Coach, I don't know. I'm coaching my daughter's travel ball team. I'm kind of enjoying softball. He said, that's great. He said, you need to keep doing that. Well, what are you going to do? I said, I don't know, Coach. He said, you know what you'd be good at? He said, you'd be great at broadcasting. I said, Coach, I didn't graduate. I said, for 9 years in the big leagues, I ran from the camera. I didn't want to be in front of the camera. What makes you think I'd be a good broadcaster? He said, well, listen, you know the game and you tell funny stories and people like you. You'll be great. He said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. He flipped out his Rolodex. He had that Rolodex, that thing with a million numbers in it. He had the president of Cox Sports Television in the Rolodex. Now, you got to remember, there was no SEC network. The only time games were ever on TV was when you got to the College World Series and ESPN put it on TV. Other than that, there weren't any games. There was no ESPN Plus and all that kind of stuff. But Cox Sports Television carried about 14 LSU games per year. Sure enough, he calls the president of Cox Sports Television. A week later, the president calls me and he goes, Ben, the season starts in 3 months. We got 14 games. You're going to be our analyst. He said, I've hired another guy by the name of Lynn Rollins. I don't know if you know him. Me and Lynn's been working together for 26 years now, all because of Coach Bertman. You know, they say Father Time is undefeated. At some point in time, he's going to knock on every one of our doors. In baseball terms, Father Time, he's batting 1,000. But what Coach Bertman did for college baseball, what he did for LSU baseball, what he did for LSU sports, and all the lives that he touched along the way, that too will always be undefeated. Coach Bertman used to say a lot of things to us, some of which I've been able to share with you tonight. Some of them maybe I can share with you at another time. But the one thing he never had to say was that he believed in his players. Never had to say that. You felt it. I felt it every time I put that uniform on and I played for him. I felt it. So today, I'm not just here as one of the guys who made it to the big leagues. I'm here as one of the many sons of this program saying goodbye to the man who built it. We love you, Coach. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Ben McDonald. Herb Vincent was one of the first people to work with Skip here at LSU. Herb was a student in the sports information office when Skip arrived here in Baton Rouge, and together they laid a public relations foundation that helped to promote the LSU baseball program to bigger and bigger audiences as the program grew. Herb was the Associate AD for Communications during Skip's coaching career here. He was the Senior Associate AD for External Relations during Skip's term as Athletics Director. For the past 13 years, Herb Vincent has been the Associate Commissioner at the Southeastern Conference in charge of their communications operation. Herb was inducted into the LSU Alumni Hall of Distinction in 2015 and into the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame in 2025. Herb Vincent joins us now to share his memories of Skip.
Thank you, Bill. Well, Ben, you killed it. I know how it feels like to come in relief after Ben's gone 8 innings with a one-hitter. I got to close it out. So maybe I'll get 2 outs, Verge, you get the last one. The first time I ever saw Skip, well, first let me thank the Bertman family. That's most important for this distinct honor of being able to speak tonight about a man that I truly loved. It's very special. The first time I ever saw Skip Bertman, it was my senior year at LSU, and he was on the field behind the batting cage. This was 1983. This was the year before he was the head coach, and he was actually here because the University of Miami was playing UNO in New Orleans. He had come up to visit Bob Broadhead. There was wide speculation that he was going to be the next head coach at LSU, and obviously that happened. During that 1983 season, LSU averaged less than 500 fans per game, 454 to be exact. It really was true that if you wanted a quiet place to go on the LSU campus to study, you went to Alex Box Stadium. Mike Sabb, you remember that. Skip had a vision, as everyone knows, and everybody talks about the vision. But he set out to build more than just a winning team. Skip created communities. Communities that made people and organizations better. Organizations that anyone who wanted to join those organizations, he welcomed them. He started by helping his players believe they could win games, ultimately championships. I think Ben and Bill have both told you how he did that. He organized the coaches committee. Wally McMakin was part of that. Wally, I said your name like you asked me to. So Wally McMakin helped with the coaches committee. The coaches committee was formed to help build support for LSU baseball. In turn, the coaches committee went out into the city and made the city believers too. They believed in Skip. He built it, and they came. Skip took the team to other cities, other schools and other cities in the state of Louisiana. He knew that an LSU baseball game in Natchitoches or Lake Charles or Lafayette or Thibodaux would not only grow LSU baseball, but would also be important to the colleges and universities in those communities. He made baseball great all across Louisiana. The work paid off. The success is well documented, as Bill and Ben and Jay have told you. The World Championship, the National Championships, the visits to the College World Series, the All-Americans, the largest attendance in the country for years and years and years. LSU was named the Team of the Decade in 1990, and a sea of purple and gold consumed Omaha year after year after year. All of that success attracted the attention of the athletics directors across the Southeastern Conference, as Skip would like to say. No longer did baseball have to be a loss leader in the athletic departments across the Southeastern Conference. Athletics directors saw that if you invested in facilities and invested in people, they too could have winning teams, they too could have the big crowds, they too could have the championships. As an example, in 2022, Mike Bianco's Ole Miss team won the national championship in Omaha. A sea of powder blue covered Omaha that year. And over the years, we've seen Omaha overtaken by other colors of the SEC. As Ben mentioned, some statistics, not only 7 in a row, he went back further than I did. 12 of the last 17 years, the SEC has won the national championship. Skip Bertman's fingerprints are all over that remarkable success. That's why Skip Bertman's not only a great legend, LSU legend, but he's one of the most influential people in the history of the Southeastern Conference. Skip was unselfish that way. He shared his brilliance. He knew the success of another program or another coach would not diminish the status of LSU baseball or the legacy of Skip Bertman. It would, in fact, enhance it, and that's why LSU continues to win all these years after he left the dugout. That is the magic of Skip Bertman. He let people come into his world. He used to say that at one time or another, every person in an organization is the most important person in that organization. The players have heard this story. He would talk about the student manager who had to wash the uniforms of the team on Saturday night of an NCAA tournament because they had to be ready for the championship game the next day. While the players and the coaches slept, that student manager was the most important person in the program. Skip made everyone feel that way, whether it was that student manager or the pitcher who came in and got just one out in a crucial situation. If it was the concessionaire who had to keep the coffee hot, the janitor who cleaned the bathroom, if it was the K-lady or if it's Chris Giott, he made us all feel we belonged to something special. That unselfishness continued into his role as athletics director at LSU. He always made the right decision for LSU. He did what was in the best interests of LSU. But that wasn't always in the best interests of Skip Bertman. When I returned to LSU in 2002, he and Verge, Dan Radakovich is out there, he was working on the football seat license program. You remember that. We all call it now the Tradition Fund. LSU needed the revenue. LSU was falling behind in revenue of the other teams in the Southeastern Conference, and he knew to expand Tiger Stadium, build a new Alex Box Stadium, build a new Tiger Park. He had to invest and raise the revenue. Once again, he had a vision. Prices would rise significantly for fans. He knew that would be unpopular, but he knew it was good for the good of LSU. He knew he had to do it. It was the only way LSU could survive. So he told me, Herbie, he always called me Herbie. Herbie, they're going to fire me for doing this. Well, that was probably the one prediction he made that did not come true, Ben. But they did not fire him, and the plan worked. And ever since then, LSU has won multiple championships in multiple sports in front of packed crowds ever since. That is the legacy of Skip Bertman. He didn't just build a winning team. He built communities. He made people believe they belonged and that they mattered. He shared his success. He lifted others up. And the results are still felt today. The pack stands, the championships, and the standard he set across the SEC and beyond. Skip Bertman let us all come into his world, and we're all better because of it. Thank you, Skip.
Thank you so much, Herb, for sharing your memories with us this evening. Now, Verge Osbury has known Skip Bertman since the mid-1980s when Verge arrived at LSU as a football student athlete. Verge played linebacker for the Tigers for 2 SEC championship teams, and then he launched a distinguished career as a college athletics executive. Skip and Verge worked very closely together during Skip's tenure as AD. They guided LSU athletics through one of the most transformational periods in its history. Verge was recognized in 2018 as the National L Club Alumnus of the Year, and today he proudly serves his alma mater as Vice President and Director of Athletics. Please join me in welcoming Verge Osbury.
Thanks, Bill. It's an honor to be here today, and thank you to the Bertman family for having us. And you heard what Herb said, but Skip Bertman was the best athletic director in the history of this institution. I know a lot of you former players, you know him, and you know how of a team builder he was. And so much has been said about him already. But Skip Bertman, the coach, the athletic director, and the man, I knew that man well. I also want to thank all the distinguished guests we have here today, the governor, mayor, the district attorney, our board of supervisors, President Roos, and many others, former coaches, current coaches. Kathy Miles, thank you for being here today, coming here with us tonight. You know, I'm going to tell some stories about our friend, and not a friend, but like a father to me. And Rabbi, you forgot a name that he called himself. Skip had nicknames for everybody. Tiny Tim, the small guys. Red Face, some other guy he would call. The go long guy that, you know, he would tell us all, don't ever throw him the ball, he'll never catch it. Just take the sack, you know, throw the ball out of, you know, that was Skip. But he had a name that we called him, and it's so right that when people talk about how he could see things before it's happening, the chosen one. And we kind of made a little jokes about it, you know, he was Jewish and the chosen one. So we're in Kentucky, the Brew Glass Miracle, that game. And everybody is, you know, we're going losing the game. We lost the game before. And he was just saying, you know, Coach Saban has never lost 2 games in a row. And Dan Radakovich and I are sitting in the suite, and we just knew the game was over. This game is over. We're going to lose this game. And all of a sudden in Kentucky, the suite sits in the end zone. So you could see the play coming right at us. And so Skip was standing up, and Miss Sandy was on side of him. And the pass is coming. We're like, okay, this game is over. Hail Mary. Tip ball, Devery Henderson catches the ball, and all of us know what happens next. Dan Radakovich and I hug each other, jumping up and down. And this is Skip, standing in the end zone. You know, Notre Dame got their touchdown, Jesus over the stadium. But this was Skip Bertman said, I am the chosen one. And we looked at each other. You know, we always joked about it. And it was like, wow, he must be the chosen one. He is. And, you know, that day, you know, Jay talked about it when I went to see him at 1:30 that day. And he was having a little procedure, and I told the family, I said, I'll be coming back to see him. So I'm come visit with Coach. And I said, you know what, I'm going to come back tomorrow morning. And something told me, something hit me in my office and said, you know what, I better go back and see Coach right now. It was 5:30, I got there, Jay was there, we went in, and we visited with him. And Jay is right, he wanted to talk about what's going on. Told us he was going to do dinner with us next week, the following week. I'm going to have dinner with y'all. And he had called me beforehand about doing dinner. Serena and I said, yeah, we're going to come do dinner with you, Coach, and have a nice meal. And I always knew with Skip that you all knew that I was going to pay for the meal. Skip wasn't going to pay for any meals, okay? And I found out at restaurants when I went with him that, well, Skip doesn't pay. I said, I got it. But I was so happy that, you know, I got to go back because see him that evening, about 8:30, we get the call that he's not doing well. And at 1:30, I said, make sure to call me any time of the night in the morning. I want to know that he passed away. And we lost a good man, a good friend. You know, the baseball players are here, all the former players and current players. Yeah, he was great. He was a great coach to all of you, and he knew how to put teams together. He was the best. As I said, Skip was the best athletic director in the history of LSU. We also put together an all-star group of people, a staff. That was the best. Dan Radakovich, Eddie Nunez, Chris Howard, Herb Vincent, Mark Ewing, Ronnie Halliburton, Judy Southard, Miriam Segar. He was the best staff in the country. And that's why LSU is in the position there is today. And all of them are here today. Skip had a way, though, you know, you're right, Ben, of how he could put you in positions and he smoked those cigars, the cheap cigars. We tried to give him Cuban cigars and great cigars, but he never wanted one of those. He wanted those Switzer cigars, and he would smoke us out the room completely. My eyes would be running, nose would be running, and everybody's coughing. Poor Herb would be coughing, Dan, in his office. And he said, I have a plan. I'm going to go up on motorhome parking. We said, okay, Skip. And he said, boys, give me the prices what you think it's going to be. So we were doing prices like $7,500, $10,000, $12,000, $15,000. And Skip said, yeah, that's good. See, those motorhomes should be about $15,000. And we were like, okay. He said, so we have this meeting with all the motorhome people tomorrow. And I want all you there, all my boys. I want you there in the back. He calls his boys. You sit in the back of the room. And we go in the room, and these people are angry, mad. I mean, they want to hang us. And we're looking at Skip and like, ooh, this is going to be a rough crowd. So Skip goes in there, gets up, like Skip would do, and would say, hey, see, I'm your guy. I'm with you. He said, so you see those guys on the back row over there? They gave me some advice, and I took a little bit of it, but they're wrong. And so this time, Dan, I'm ducking down in my chair. I'm figuring out how to get out there, and Radakovich is turning red and very angry at the time. And he said, you see, I have a plan, and I'm going to help you. Now, no, the people is only paying $300 a year for their motorhome pass. So Skip says, you see, those guys in the back, they wanted to charge you $15,000. I said, no, those are my people. I love those people. He said, then it came again. I said, well, let me get another number. He said, 8,500. I don't know where you make these numbers at. 8,500. I said, we can't do that. I cannot do that to my people. Then he said, they said 6,500. I said, too much. Can't do it. You see, I'm with you. You are my people. And I came up with the right price. I said $5,000. Everybody stood up in that room and gave him a standing ovation. It was the best marketing deal ever. And we all sitting there in the back of the room, and people are applauding him and looking back at us saying boo, boo, and pointing different fingers at us. And I'm like, how are we going to get out of this room? And the only thing I remember Skip saying, we walking out, we were like, Skip, I mean, that wasn't a plan. He said, oh, it was a plan. You see, boys, if I wasn't there, they was going to hang you by your toenails. So that was the chosen one. President Skip isn't a new thing for me, obviously. I don't think I had a single interview during my tenure so far at LSU Athletic Director where I didn't talk about what Skip means to me, what he meant to me. Skip saw in me at a young age a LSU football player from New Iberia, Louisiana, someone who might be a good fit to work in his office. He was a mentor, not just in my career, but my life. Skip would take me aside and remind me about the duties as a father and as someone who could make a kind difference in the young lives of athletes like he had with me. He certainly talked to me about his philosophy behind winning, which I learned this athletic department is today, which he did more than any other coach here. But he also talked with me about the philosophy of how to live. He never missed a chance to remind me that my first obligation in the athletics department was always to be student athletes, not just when they wore the uniform, but for the rest of their lives. And while he never inserted himself into a student athlete or staff member life or personal business, he forever made it known that his door was always open, that if you needed someone to talk to bounce ideas off of, to seek encouragement from, he was always available. If you were part of Skip's life, there was no expiration date on that relationship. Since I was blessed to become athletic director at my alma mater, Skip will remind me that regardless how many changes were taking place in college athletics, how much money was in play, that LSU should never, ever change its priority from helping young student athletes become responsible, engaged adults. He said our job was to recruit people of character, help develop the character, and provide a touchstone for them as they set out on careers, got married, raised families, and served their communities. And those are my pillars today in the athletic department. Skip insisted that LSU be, as our football coach says, just different. To me, just different means that our campus, our colors, our brand is unique in our world and of great value. If you come to LSU, you'll always be a part of a special place and a special state that's unique in its beauty, its commitment to hard work, and its passion for achievement and success. LSU pride means being proud of who we are and what we represent. Skip Bertman was and always will be by my side in my journey. In fact, I can hear his voice today telling me to wrap it up and stop talking about him. Every student athlete who has come to LSU or future generations who come should be educated on the incredible legacy of Skip Bertman, what he meant to our university, and more importantly, his approach to life and to work. That legacy means committing to excellence, to constantly improving yourself, and to uplifting the lives of others. That legacy means that teamwork doesn't mean a loss of individualism. It simply means that one commits to expressions that make others better also. When I walk around this campus or engage in the community, many Tiger fans want to talk to me about the changes in college athletics, how money has changed the game and the student athletes who play them. I tell them that they should see our student athletes at practice or in the classroom or in their communities. They are driven by so much more than money or winning. We win at LSU, and we win a lot, and we won't ever apologize for it. But our student athletes are here because they too are just different. They want to wear their unmistakable purple and gold. They want to play with other athletes as motivated toward greatness as they are. They want to be elite. They want to always be special. This isn't a promise or something recent. It's been here for quite a while. It was the way Skip demanded it. It was the way it should always be. Anyone who ever played or worked with or enjoyed personal time with Skip Bertman cared what he thought. No one wanted to let him down. Everyone wanted to see one of his secret smiles of pride, and I remember those smiles each and every day. Skip, you didn't really leave us. You never will. You live on at LSU forever. Thank you for shaping my life and so many others. Love you, the chosen one. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Verge. Well, 43 years ago, it all began. Skip Bertman moved from Miami to Baton Rouge, bringing his wife, Sandy, and his 4 young daughters, Jan, Jody, Lisa, and Lori, here to Baton Rouge to embark on what would be an amazing journey for their family here in Louisiana. So representing the Bertman family tonight here at the podium is Skip's youngest daughter, Lori Bertman, and Lori will be joined here on stage by several members of the family.
Thank you. I think right now my dad is saying, why are you going last after all of those amazing speeches by professional speakers? I know he is telling me, hold the rope, Lori. Be strong. But thank you. But before I, was thinking about writing this speech, I asked myself, what would my dad want me to say? And I landed on two important words: thank you. Not on behalf of him, to you all. And on the behalf of my sisters and extended family, thank you all for being here to celebrate our father's life. Thank you to those who traveled from across the country and to the thousands more who have reached out, shared stories, sent photographs, made us laugh, and reminded us that the impact our dad's life had on so many. Thank you to the Tiger Athletic Foundation and everyone who worked to bring this extraordinary celebration of life together, and to those who spoke so beautifully in tribute to him. And thank you especially to the people who helped pave the way for our dad to become Skip Bertman. Because my father, our father, always recognized that he did not do all of this by himself. He lived with grace and humility. From his lifelong best friend, Richie Berger, to the friendship he found in his 80s with Coach Jay Johnson. God, he loved you both, loved so, so much. His elusive mentor, Max Sapper, who everyone wants to know about, who taught him the game of baseball as a child, to the players he coached at Flamingo Park at the ripe age of 14, Miami Beach High, the University of Miami, and the dynasty he built from scratch right here at LSU, which he loves so much. The original LSU Coaches Committee, led by Wally McMakin. I included your name, Wally, as you asked me to. And Charlie D'Agostino. And the only Jewish LSU fans in town at the time of his recruitment, Richard and Susan Lipsy, who became devoted baseball fans and friends. To all the coaches who worked alongside him over the years, and the support of the greatest fans in the country from LSU, and so many people in between. And then there was our mom. Pause for applause. Our mother could have taught a master class on being a coach's wife. She understood that when you marry a coach, apparently you also marry his players, his staff, his recruiting schedule, his fans, and whatever crisis happened in the ninth inning. She was his partner through it all, and she was the rock of our family. We lost our mom last year, and it is impossible for us to talk about our dad's life and accomplishments without recognizing how much of that life they built together. There is something comforting to all of us to know that they and our sister Lisa, who we lost far too soon in 2012, are together again. For my sisters and me, though, these past days have been incredibly difficult. While the world lost a legend, we lost our father. But we also know that many of you lost somebody too. Some of you lost your coach, lost a mentor, a boss, a teacher, a friend, or the person who gave you an opportunity when you needed one. And some of you never actually met him, but somehow he gave us all a sense of belonging to a winning team. Your grief is real too, respectfully. And the incredible outpouring of love we've experienced has reminded our family that while he was our dad, we always lovingly shared him with all of you. It is not lost on us that growing up as Skip Bertman's daughters was both a lucky and extraordinary experience. Jan got to be the bank girl at University of Miami and still owns a coveted Miami satin coach's jacket that I'm trying to rip off. Jody had the time of her life managing the Grand Slam batting cages and became a favorite OG LSU fandom. Lisa and I traveled to USA baseball games around the world. And as the youngest, with a June birthday, I celebrated my 11th and my 40th birthdays in Omaha at the College World Series, and quite a few in between. But perhaps one of my dad's greatest coaching ironies is that despite all of his success on the field, none of his children became athletes. Not a one. 5 national championships, a Hall of Fame career, decades spent developing elite athletes, and this was the roster at home. But I now know that was always by design. As a dad, he promoted education. He wanted us to be leaders. He wanted us to work hard, find something we cared about, treat people well, especially ourselves, engage in service, and perhaps most importantly, be happy in whatever life we chose. He saw the best in all of us. And while he tried not to pick favorites, it's really no secret who his favorite daughter was. 1997 National Championship pitcher Doug Thompson. But in all seriousness, our dad loved his players like sons, and we loved them like brothers. For all the attention paid to what our dad accomplished, his real gift was what he could see in other people. Our father saw potential. And then he had this remarkable ability to make you see it in yourself. That may be the part of his legacy that matters most now. It's what the people impacted most by the legacy do next. So today, my sisters and I want to ask something of all of you. If our dad coached you and encouraged you, taught you, challenged you, made you believe you could do something you think you could not do, or even if you simply watched him from the stands and that added joy to your life, take a piece of that with you and pay it forward. Coach somebody, mentor somebody, give somebody a chance, accept others without judgment. Want as much for others as you want for yourself, or even more. Win through kindness and generosity. If 1,000 people leave here carrying even one small piece of our Father into the way they live, lead, or love other people, then his influence doesn't end today. It just multiplies. And now it's our turn to say thank you to our dad. Thank you for being a wonderful father, a grandfather. To Sophie, Isaac, Sam, and Ezra. Though Ezra sometimes really got criticized, a lot of critique, because he did play. A husband to our mother, a coach, a mentor, and an all-around beautiful human being. Billie Jean King called me and said, "Your father was a true force, Lori, a true force. And thank you for believing in each one of us, making us feel safe and loved, especially in the most trying of times. Thank you for teaching us that winning was about much more than baseball. And thank you for showing us how to live a visionary and inspired life. We love you, Dad, and your absence will be a presence in our lives forever." And in close, I invite everyone to stand and celebrate Skip through a song we all love and we all know as an Omaha theme song, because we will be there this year. No pressure. Jay. Hit it, Julia.
Where it began, I can't begin to knowing, but then I know it's growing strong. Wasn't the spring, and spring became the summer. Who'd have believed you'd come along? Touching hands, reaching out, touching me, touching you. Sweet Caroline, good times never seem so good. I've been inclined at the night, and it don't seem so lonely. We fill it up with only two. And when I hurt, hurting runs off my shoulders. How can I hurt when holding you? Touching warm, reaching out, touching me, touching you. Caroline, good times never seem so good. I've been inclined
We appreciate so much all of you joining us here this evening to celebrate the legacy of truly the greatest of all time, Skip Bertman. As we say at the end of every game at the box, thank you, good night.